For the Ghanaian Times, MPP decides it's Dr. Bawumia as flag bearer of MPP for 2024 general elections. And other related stories. I'll be my own man in government, according to Dr. Bawumia. And Nungwa Stool invites homeowners on Adjingan or Boteman lands to regularize documents following Supreme Court ruling.
Yes, I've been following that particular story. Sometime later, I would file a report on that. The Daily Graphic says, Bawumia, I've my own vision, which is I have my own vision. Co-contestants pledge support, and he's seen here collecting the franca from Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And then also we're told this morning that low patronage officers call for more publicity on voter register exhibition. In fact, this is so heartbreaking. I drove past some of the
has been opened.
Yeah, and people are not going.
Yeah, but it's not the same as registering. Just go and exhibit. You and I know her name is there. Maybe that's why. Or maybe let's start and
harmonize tax regimes to ease business costs, according to some discussant at a forum. And embrace CRM to prevent accidents. The MPA boss is telling all of us.
All right, the Finder also has the MPP's flag bearer story. Bawumia makes history in MPP, obtains highest endorsement for any first-time flag bearer aspirant. Other stories: shortcut for Agenda 111 Hospital in Adentan Municipality. Embrace CRM to prevent accidents and improve LPG access. That's according to the MPA boss. And 432 kilometers of roads constructed in Volta region, unprecedented. That's according to Nana Akufo-Addo.
The Daily Guide says this morning, Bawumia leads MPP, grabs 61.47% votes. Also, we are told Kolebu, former CEO, brings relief to patients. And then also court to try Quaison in absentia. Whoa.
All right, the Chronicle says Bawumia clears major hurdle, steps into 2024 as flag bearer. KT pleads with traders to reduce prices, and you have the cylinder recirculation model story. Hamid calls on consumers to embrace CRM.
The Herald says Kennedy Japan ends bragging power at Bawumia's dinner table. Or is actually bargaining power. Yes. Also, there's something here that says MPP no longer a can party following Bawumia's flag bearer victory. That's the General Secretary of the party talking there. And then also, Bawumia signals his independence from Akufo-Addo. I have my own vision and priority. And then Akufo-Addo promises Bawumia victory. Ghana can't afford Mohammed's return.
All right, so I'll run through the new publisher, the Today newspaper, Republic Press, and Daily Post. All of them have their own takes. But the Daily Post take is a very interesting one. 39% of MPP delegates rejected Bawumia as flag bearer. That's according to Sami Jenfi. So it's a viewpoint,
so it's
perspective.
The flag being half full or half empty.
Yes, that's how you want to look at it. Anyway, if I run through these same papers in terms of unique stories, the new publisher says Girls in ICT initiative makes strides in digital landscape. The Today newspaper, water shortage hits Accra. GWCL blames it on wager treatment plant. And Kolebu to reopen renal unit today. The other unique story on the front page of the Republic Press, Ayariga wants IMF, World Bank over Foriata's Financial Stability Fund. And police to decongest mortuary on November 22. What a date to do that.
Okay, because
it's your birthday.
Yes.
Oh, today is your birthday?
No, not today.
Okay. The Ghanaian publisher says this morning, I have my own vision and priorities. Bawumia, MPU boss, again talking about the CRM. If you go to BNFT, they say Ghana Mutual Prosperity Dialogue. We are deliberate about supporting the private sector. The finance minister, Kenneth Foriata, is quoted here saying also on climate, government targeting 24 million tons of carbon credits by 2030.
Right.
If you turn your attention to the Inquisitor, the big story says OSP's report on Edu Bahin, Amidu makes ugly noise. Also on the front page, we're told Napo grabs most dynamic minister award. Charlie Napo international.
Most dynamic.
Napo just be big man. And then also Techiman South gives Bawumia highest votes as Bono East delivers. And then on the front page too, we have Citi FM offers pillage victims second resettlement center.
Yeah, let me take you online, citynewsroom.com. A few stories that you don't have already. Kandapar to appear in Parliament this week over alleged military assault in Garu. Also, ECG to embark on Operation Fix the Bill and Pay the Bill from today. And then other stories making the headlines. Ken Ofori-Atta to visit Seoul Cement following closure of over 700 million cedi tax default. And then let's join forces to achieve the ambition of breaking the 8th Bawumia. Quite a number of Bawumia stories as well. A few other stories. Late Akoto Ampaw's 1 week observance held. NDC holds vigil for the late Sherry Aite. And then Kukrentumi farmers appeal to MOFA to stop indiscriminate selling of lands. So those are a number of stories in the citynewsroom.com. If you go to my Joe Online, the ECG operation is also there. We are against a formidable opponent. This is Sami Oku speaking about the NDC. OSP says there's no direct law to prosecute Edu Buahin for influence peddling. And they have Sami Dakun there. And then there's a very interesting headline here. NDC's biggest fear is not the mess will... NDC's biggest fear is the mess will inherit, not Bawumia. This is Fuseini, who's the former MP for Tamale Central. And then if you go on to international, Reuters says pressure mounts on Israel over civilian casualties as ceasefire calls rebuffed. So you have that story making the headlines there. The BBC is also talking about the conflict in the Middle East, as is other newspapers. For example, US pushes for pause in fighting as Israel says it has cut Gaza in two. And then, there's another story here that I think you should pay attention to. The BBC says US is quietly arming Taiwan to the teeth. Meanwhile, there's still a Ukraine war. I told you,
Yeah, the other day I was
Ukraine
asking-
military is under pressure over deadly strike. Right now, the news media has put Ukraine like they are number 3 on the agenda. Gaza is number 1. So let's give us a summary of the Saturday's stories.
Okay. So if you go to the daily graphic, Bawumia, I have my own vision. And co-contestants are pledging support. Chris Nunu and Joshua Bediako Kumsim write for the Daily Graphic this morning, and they say the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, last Saturday declared that he has his own vision and priorities after he secured the mandate of delegates to become the flag bearer of the governing New Patriotic Party NPP. Now, just before Dr. Bawumia stepped onto the rostrum to deliver the about 40-minute long speech, which was his acceptance speech, at the victory rally at the Accra Sports Stadium, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo said he was obligated to help Dr. Bawumia to win the 2024 presidential elections. And at the event attended by, though he gives you all the
details that we know
But
already.
the point is that co-contestants have pledged their support, and hopefully Dr. Bawumia would prosecute a clean campaign.
Yes.
Well, if you go to the papers, the Ghanaian Times, the Finder, the Chronicle, they all have very similar, but they've looked at it
versions.
differently. The Ghanaian Times says it's Dr. Bawumia as flag bearer for the MPP. The Finder says Bawumia makes history in MPP, and they have they've dropped some numbers. They have a chart here stating how much or how the voting played out in all the regions. And the Chronicle says Bawumia clears major hurdle, and they also have the election results here as well. Now, the Daily Post, they decided to look at it from the other angle, and they say Sami Jemfi is saying that 39% of MPP delegates rejected Dr. Bawumia. So for him, that is the biggest takeaway. And he says Bawumia's margin of win in that contest was embarrassing.
It's funny because the Finder's angle is that the victory hicks of 61.4 is the highest of any first-time contender.
Yes.
So if you compare like the Edu Buahin to Akufo-Addo, so there are different ways of looking at it. Now the other story is about what will happen next. The Herald to us an angle.
Yeah, Kennedy Japan ends bargaining power at Bawumia's dinner table. And the story on page
That's an
3
interesting angle.
says the bland-speaking member of parliament for the Asin Central constituency last Saturday obtained not just a bragging right in the governing New Patriotic Party, but also a bargaining power at the dinner or negotiation table of the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, after pooling 37.4% of the valid votes cast against the number 2 man's 61.43%. Now, Kennedy Kwame Ohene Ejapong says 71,991 votes at the party's presidential primary versus Dr. Bawumia's he wants to
We
say
have the-
118,200.
We have those numbers. We
Yeah,
don't need
where-
it. So
where-
the main story is that
How's-
the margin, the votes Kennedy got gives him sort of some bargaining chip.
Yeah, that's right. That's basically what it is. Larry, I beg you, move the decimal. Is that how would you call it? The comma inside the
already gone.
numbers. They move it to the proper places.
Now, a few other stories. In Parliament today, Albert Kandapa will appear to answer questions on the Garu matter.
Today,
No, not today, this week. Forgive me, it's not today, this week. So the MPs to grill National Security Minister Albert Kandapa, who will appear in Parliament on November 9, actually, to answer questions about the attacks on residents of Garu and Tempane in the Upper East region by military personnel. Over 50 people were hospitalized after some military personnel unleashed mayhem on the residents over the weekend. In response to calls by MPs for an investigation into the matter, the Deputy Speaker, second Deputy Speaker, has directed the National Security Minister to brief legislators on the situation on November 9. So that's something to just keep an eye on. And then ECG also said they're embarking on an operation Fix the Bill and Pay the Bill for postpaid customers. That's making the rounds in the news this morning as well.
in fact, if you go to page 8 of the Daily Guide, they have a full, advertorial there detailing what exactly they are doing with Operation Fix the Bill and Pay the Bill.
Then there's an interesting one here. The GRA has, closed a cement factory for a 700 million cedi tax default. Now, the City Business News is reporting that the Minister of Finance is supposed to visit the company.
Okay.
So the story says that the GRA has demanded that Seoul Cement Management settle at least 40% of the outstanding liabilities before allowing the company to resume operations. The GRA closed the cement factory 2 weeks ago due to a 700 million cedi tax default, including VAT. The company was cited for VAT infractions, corporate income tax, and penalties after a tax audit by the GRA's enforcement. It failed to pay taxes for more than 2 years and has been asked to settle the amount within 10 days. And the details of the story are given. The finance minister, I believe, visited the factory to gain insights into the shutdown. And after discussions, the agreement was that they will pay at least 40% for the factory to be reopened.
Okay. Now,
Okay, if you go to page 4 of the Finder, Speaker directs Health Minister to brief Parliament on closure of Kolebu Renal Unit, OPD. Now, Mr. Andrea Mwakwensiyama, second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, presiding as Speaker, has directed that Mr. Kweku Ajimamenu, Health Minister, briefs the House on the closure of the renal unit's OPD at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital on Thursday, November 9. He has also charged the minister to brief the House on the upsurge of kidney-related diseases in Ghana. The second Deputy Speaker, while presiding over the House, gave the directive at the end of a statement by Kwabena Mintah Akando, the NDC's Member of Parliament for Dwaboso and ranking member of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, on the prolonged closure of the renal
But
unit.
we know now, based on the news this morning, that Citi 6 a.m. news, that the renal unit to be open today.
Okay.
So that's without prejudice to what you've read. But the unit will start operating today.
in the meantime, let's stay in Kolebu, because if you go to page 6 of that paper, the Daily Guide, former Kolebu CEO brings relief to patients. And the story says Dr. Felix Anya, a former chief executive officer of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, has made a generous donation of 100,000 Ghana cedis to settle the bills of new mothers and sick babies. Now, this kind gesture is aimed at helping patients in the maternity and children's departments who are struggling to pay their medical bills. Let's stay there on page 6. President Akufo-Addo was in the Volta region over the weekend. We celebrated Hugbechochusa within the Anglo enclave over the weekend. And Ernest Kofi-Edu reporting says 432 kilometers in length for roads in the upper, or what they call it, Volta region is unprecedented, according to the president. Now, the story says that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has revealed that his government has constructed 432 kilometers of roads in the Volta region since taking office in January 2017. Now, the president described the road construction as unprecedented when addressing a large number of chiefs and people of Anglo State on Saturday to commemorate the 2023 edition of the traditional Hugbechochu Festival. But, Mr. President, let me just remind you that from Toko all the way to Ho, that road is in a horrible state. So if you want to add,
the achievement.
please send the Terminator to go and do something about it. It can't be right. That is the major road that goes to the regional capital. It is in a horrifying state. Mr. President, please do something about it.
Let's go to two stories related to funerals. Late Akoto Ampaw's 1 week observance held. City Newsroom is reporting that the 1 week observance of the veteran lawyer, human rights activist, and anti-corruption campaigner Akoto Ampaw was held on Saturday, November 5, 2023. It was held at his residence, North Carnation, near the Holy Trinity Hospital in Accra. Family, friends, and loved ones, and several personalities, including politicians and legal practitioners, attended the event. Now, the esteemed lawyer passed away at the University of Ghana Medical Center on October 20, 2023. Then, still in terms of observances, the NDC held a vigil for the late Sherry Ayite, who also passed away a couple of weeks ago. And again, there were prominent people in that party at the event to celebrate her life and legacy. All right, so let's come to other stories of business. Come to the front page of BNFT Sky. There's a story about, I think, something to do with prosperity, something.
Exactly. That story is on page 3, quoting the finance minister. And he says, we are deliberate about supporting the private sector. And Joshua Walasi Amlanu says this morning that Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has reiterated government's commitment to collaborating with the private sector to drive economic growth and transformation. Now, his remarks came in an exclusive interview following the inaugural Ghana Mutual Prosperity Dialogues, where he emphasized the government's willingness to engage in partnership and its determination to address economic challenges for the collective benefit of the nation. There's a quote here that says, we are looking for that space to work towards the achievement of a common goal. This is coming on the back of challenging economic circumstances, which have started easing within the space of 10 months. And yesterday or 2 days ago, you heard Bawumia suggest that, yes, they acknowledge that Ghanaians are suffering, but in his view, the economy is rebounding.
All right, Nathan, if you have something else for us.
Yes, I wanted to get you Mahama Ayariga talking to the IMF.
Yes, this is in relation to the new arrangements for
but the
the
Republic
banks.
Press seems to have put the story on a different page.
You have lost.
No, because I'm actually on that page, but the story was not
You have
put there.
confused yourself. You are confusing yourself. Let me go to OSP this morning. The story that they have is from their one of their officials.
Yes.
Says there's no direct law to prosecute Edu Boahen for influence peddling. The Director of Strategy, Research and Communication at the Office of the Special Prosecutor has justified why the office could not prosecute former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Charles Edu Boahen, for influence peddling. Speaking on Joy News' The Law on Sunday, Samit Dakun explained that although influence peddling may be an offense in many jurisdictions, which could land him in jail, in Ghana it is not so. This, he said, is because there's no direct law in the country to prosecute Mr. Edu Boahen.
Okay.
So he was justifying that
All right.
decision.
So we found Mahama Ayariga now. He's MP for Boku Central. He has cautioned the World Bank and the IMF to withdraw their support for the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta in establishing the Ghana Financial Stability Fund. According to Mahama Ayariga, the said institutions support to the Ghana Financial Stability Fund is unconstitutional and illegal, thus with no approval from Parliament. In a letter to the two institutions, Ayariga stated that the GFSF was established through mere guidelines and put under administration as an illegal and unconstitutional body known as the Ghana Amalgamated Trust PLC.
All right, let's end with Sky.
Yeah, still talking law. Court to try Quayson in absentia, page 6 of the Daily Guide. Jibril Abdul Razak says a high court here in Accra has served notice that it will hold the trial of Member of Parliament for Asing North, James Jachi Quayson, in absentia if he fails to either show up for the trial or join in virtually on the 9th of November 2023. Now, the court, presided over by Justice Mary Yanzu, said the case had been delayed for some time now, with the prosecution's witness being in the witness box for more than a year since he gave his evidence in chief.
Let me end with Kukrintumi farmers. Dozens of cocoa farmers and other peasant farmers in Kukrintumi, Ebuakwa North, are appealing to Cocoa Board and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to intervene and halt the indiscriminate sale of cocoa plantations to estate developers. Okay. The residents and farmers allege that several hectares of cocoa farms and other plantations are being forcibly taken away from them by traditional leaders in the area. They threaten to take the law into their own hands if the government and appropriate authorities fail to intervene. Hundreds of Kukrintumi residents are protested, accusing traditional leaders of indiscriminately selling their farm lands.
Osono Gogogo or Baba Gigim. Gigim.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sky.
That was a good person.
That was a newspaper review. It's brought to us by Fidelity Bank.